Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is David, this is David K Reacts, and here on this channel I ramble with articulation, I hope, about a variety of musical, visual and audio elements of videos that I look at. And this is episode 3 of my Music That Inspired Me series. Rather than my regular reaction analyses, these videos are ones where I simply talk for a minute about music that had a major impact on my life in some way, shape or form, or still does in many cases, and I just talk about them a little bit and then play that piece of music for you, rather than, as I say, a full reaction episode. And today I'm going to be looking at a wonderful piece of music called Mr. Piano Man, sung by Annette Funicello. And if you don't know who Annette Funicello is, she was one of the first Mouseketeers recruited by Disney for the Mickey Mouse Club back in the 50s. There were 24 of them originally, and Annette was one of them, and in her time on the show and with the group, blew past the others in terms of popularity by a long stretch, such that after the Mickey Mouse Club was cancelled by Disney, Annette was the only one of those 24 who actually stayed on contract with Disney and who he continued working with. She was so popular, actually, that she became mononymously known as Annette. And if you said Annette to somebody, everybody knew who you were talking about, which is quite marvellous. She would have been either 12 or 13, I think, at the time where she became a Mouseketeer. It's difficult to say in terms of when it happened. Her birthday was in October, so probably 12. And over many years, just became a stunning performer. And the piece of music here, Mr. Piano Man, was originally performed in a filmed episode of Walt Disney's The Golden Horseshoe Revue, which was recorded for The Wonderful World of Color, Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color. And the reason for that was this was the 10,000th performance of The Golden Horseshoe Revue, which otherwise was performed at the Golden Horseshoe Saloon, I think it was called, in Disneyland in California. And this was obviously a big commemorative moment, and so they wrote a special show for it. And I haven't seen the full performance myself, but this song I actually got on tape, on cassette tape. I got a collection of 3 cassette tapes that were just famous songs from Disney. And this was one of them. And actually, it took me a very long time to figure out where it came from, because at the point where I got this, 1, I was extremely young, and 2, by the time I was kind of into finding out how, who was singing what and, or what band sings this and that sort of thing, the internet still wasn't around, and I didn't have access to things like The Wonderful World of Color. I don't know if they even came over to the UK, but we never had cable in my house, and so for the longest time I was limited to the 5 channels, eventually 5. I think it must have been 4 when I was born, I think, but it became 5. And that's all I had until I was significantly older. And as a result, shows like this passed me by, but I still heard the music. And for years, I wanted to know where this came from. And I finally found out, much later in life. I think I was in my 20s before I actually discovered where this had come from. And all that time, it had been living rent-free in my head. And I think when I play it, you'll see why. The reason that this is particularly important to me was it was one of the first songs that really introduced me to this kind of old-timey music hall piano playing and singing as well, but the piano in particular was what stood out to me. And I'd had a cassette tape of Scott Joplin music, and I loved that too, and I got massively into ragtime as a result of that. And this was adjacent. It was something different, and it showed me a different perspective on that kind of music. It put it into a slightly different genre and a slightly different setting, and I loved it. And it kind of broadened my mind out of ragtime into something else, and it made me want to learn to play any form of jazz piano. Ragtime in particular. I'm not a particularly good ragtime pianist. I find the stride bass tricky, probably just because I don't put the practice in to get good at it, if I'm honest. But this piece of music really kick-started that interest, and I can look back to it to this day, over 30 years at this point, and say, yeah, that was the start of my interest in this whole section of music. I bought Scott Joplin books, I learned to play ragtime and New Orleans piano and all this sort of stuff, and I adored it, and it all stemmed, I think, from hearing this. Much as I loved ragtime from the Scott Joplin cassette, It was that little extra variety that really triggered the interest. This piece of music was written by the Sherman Brothers for Annette, especially for this program. The other song they wrote for her for the same one was Hang a Lantern in the Window, which is also very famous. I won't be looking at that today. This is just the one song. And specifically, the version we're going to be looking at is the version that was released on record. The one that was on the film was a little different. This one is a bit bouncier, and the piano is a bit more forward in the mix, as well as it does a little bit more. And it showcased it a little bit more for me, and that's really what I liked. I didn't actually see the filmed version for quite some time. I think I saw that for the first time 6 or 7 years ago. And it's wonderful, and it certainly fits in with the set that they've got there, but it didn't quite catch me as much, precisely because I think the piano is what I absolutely love about this. The other thing that is awesome about Annette is she contracted MS very sadly, and had that for 25 years before she passed away in 2013, and was one of the greatest sort of speakers about it, I think, and kind of really advocated for more attention and understanding of MS and all that sort of thing. And I just think that has to be credited, because that's an incredible thing to be pushing for. Sorry, a momentary glitch in my recording there. I think I was just saying that Annette had hidden her MS for some time, and she finally announced it publicly in order to avoid that potential misinterpretation of the change in her movements and things like that, which, you know, is a great and brave thing to do, to sort of come out and announce that sort of thing. So, yeah, quite an extraordinary woman, and I think that's about all I have to say on the matter. I think this is a short song. I might interrupt it once or twice, if anything else, just to help allow this to go through. I don't know how ardent the copyright is on this, but obviously I'm looking to make sure it falls under fair use, so I may talk about a couple of things in the middle. But otherwise, I'm going to play it mostly through. So from the 1962 10,000th performance of the Golden Horseshoe Revue, and there's no video accompanying this because I wanted to use the recorded version. So this is just a still image. But this is Annette Funicello's Mr. Piano Man.
Mr. Piano Man, please tickle those ivory keys. No one can noodle the way that you doodle those ricky-ticky melodies.
One thing, actually, that also I was really taken by was the sort of internal rhyming here. The no one can noodle the way that you doodle. Those sort of... It wasn't a rhyme at the end of every line, which was kind of the songwriting I had been used to up until that point, with the exception of some Gilbert and Sullivan. And so this was also an interesting view for me into a different way of rhyming within a song.
Oh, Mr. Piano Man, you do what nobody can do. Your trembling tremolos are gonna drive me to ruin. Your left don't know exactly what your right hand is doing. Oh,
that was an idea I loved too, that somebody might be, you know, the two hands are just doing such crazy stuff that it's almost incommunicative between the two, which of course is never the case. A good pianist knows exactly what everything is doing at all times. But I love that idea, and I think it was funny, because this is so much about the piano player, it highlights the piano even more, I think. And that's one of the reasons I loved it so much.
To ruin, your left don't know exactly what your right hand is doing. Oh, Mr. Piano Man, please tickle those ivory keys.
So much of the piano you can hear in here, it's just kind of almost embellishment on top of everything else. It's these repeated chords, it's endless playing, it's constantly playing notes. This must be, you know, quite the workout for the piano player, even though the song's less than a minute and a half long, just because so much is going on. But it's just so cool hearing that constantly in the background.
Mr. Piano Man, you do what nobody can do. Your trembling tremolos are gonna drive me to ruin. right hand is doing? Oh, Mr. Piano Man, please tickle those ivories, Mr. Piano Man, please.
And that's it. That's the whole song. And it's just so impossibly infectiously happy that I can't help absolutely adoring it every single time I hear it. It's wonderful music. It's funny because at some points it even highlights the banjo more than it does the piano, but the piano's always there. And I think that's what caught my interest so much. Because it's such a different... And of course, that style of playing probably only works with a band, because there's no sense that the piano is holding up the bass end of this sort of thing, and it's rhythmically kind of going all over the place. So it's very, very much a style of music that needs other players around it, but it's just brilliant. Just brilliant. And yeah, there it is. One of my favourite pieces of music of all time, by a long stretch, just if nothing else because of the happiness and the fond memories that it brings me every time I hear it. That's it for this episode. More of this to come. I seem to be doing about one of these a month, give or take, so there'll be another one coming probably in a month's time. But I hope that you're enjoying this. Please let me know in the comments if you're liking this series. I'm interested, to know what people think. And I've had 3 very different songs so far, and it will continue to be that. My musical taste, in case you hadn't guessed by now, is exceptionally eclectic. And really, it's not so much do I like this style of music or do I like this band, as for me, it is do I like this song. It really comes down to that, and the song will often lead into the band or the album or the genre, just like this did. This opened a whole genre for me. And so very, very much, I'll be all over the place with this series, but I really do hope you're enjoying it. Thank you for watching. Please do hit the like button, the subscribe, and the notification bell, and if you care to support the channel, you can do so by heading to buymeacoffee.com/DavidKreacts, to patreon.com/DavidKreacts, or by leaving me a super thanks here on YouTube. Apparently my recording corrupted and I lost the last sort of 40 seconds or so of me speaking. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day, whatever time it may be, whenever you are watching this. Look after yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.